All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Before I get started with tonight's broadcast of Friday Night Smackdown, I just want to say a little something special. Today just so happens to be the birthday of former WWE, aka NXT star Dakota Kai, who last week unfortunately was released along with a few other people from WWE. Now, I got a question. Before I go any further, I need to ask this question real quick. Someone explain to me how Cody Rhodes, and I'm happy about it. How were they able to pay and buy Cody from AEW to WWE, yet budget cuts are still releasing great talent, such as Dakota Kai herself? Thankfully, they were able to win and defeat the poison of NXT, as I jokingly call them, Toxic Attraction. However, the titles were dropped back to Toxic Attraction not too far afterwards, right before Dakota Kai's release. And so I think it stinks that she was released, but hopefully she'll go on to better things. If she goes to AEW, Rampage and Dynamite will have to do a separation brand just like WWE did in 2002. And speaking of which, I feel like The Undertaker right now when he got drafted to Monday Night Raw from Ric Flair. But with that being said, I also thought it was funny when Dakota Kai did a Busted challenge and Diamond Mine's manager, who was also released, broke the whole thing and said, "Nope, we watching Scooby Doo when your parents are Christians." But either way, it stinks that he's released, but he gave a special shout out to Zia Lee. So, man, wish both those two the best. But let's get started. I had to say that real quick. Let's get started with tonight's broadcast of Friday Night Smackdown from Long Island, hometown of MJF. That is the only place where MJF will ever get an applause because can't nobody stand that man. His own parents can't stand him. But let's get down to SmackDown tonight. We opened the show with what was supposed to be a match between Charlotte Flair and Aaliyah, who survived last week and did not quit. But the match never happened because even though Charlotte attacked Aaliyah, Ronda Rousey came in and they got into a brawl. Not brawl. I'm thinking about something I want to say later. But either way, they fought it out, and Jamie Noble, alongside with other referees and securities, and Davari. You guys remember Davari from the days of managing Kurt Angle and Mark Henry, and of course, he started off managing Muhammad Hassan before he was wrote off television. And who better to write a man off than The Undertaker? But either way, Davari came along with Jamie Noble to break up the fight. And fun fact, Ronda Rousey was fixing Charlotte's bra during the fight so that Charlotte won't have any excuses come Sunday. Speaking of which, our first opening match of the night, we had a bit of some competition from the women's side. We had Shayna Basler versus Sasha Banks, and this is a revenge match for the fact that Shayna injured Naomi last week. So they fought off, and Sasha showed that she can get a little bit sick and twisted herself, manipulating bones like Shayna and Pete Dunne do. But nonetheless, they both targeted each other's arms, and after Sasha went for what was a reminder of a Rey Mysterio Bulldog and a Hurricanrana onto Natalya, who is very busy lately, Shayna Baszler rolled her up, and with help from the ropes and Natalya, Shayna got the victory. But she didn't stop there because after the cheat job, she tried to break Sasha's arm. I mean, let's face it, we all know Shayna has a fetish for breaking people's arms and breaking bones and stuff. It's a fetish for her. I'm just playing, y'all. But either way, she didn't get a chance to fulfill her thing, her fetish, as I like to call it. It's just a joke. But she didn't get a chance to finish. because Naomi, despite being one arm and all, interfered and saved the whole thing. Speaking of jokes, let's talk about something else that happened tonight. Tonight we had Happy Corbin, or should I say, Big Bald Corbin. I decree on this channel for the rest of my life, especially as long as he is a heel, Baron Corbin, I decree, let it be decreed, my loyal subjects, that from this moment on, Baron Corbin shall be known as Big Bald Corbin. Let it be heard by the royal decreants. But either way, tonight, Magic Mike Moss, as I like to call him, came out with some jokes tonight, making fun of how Corbin looks and made fun of his tattoos, saying he is a fake parody version of Pitbull. Speaking of parodies, Goldberg took a picture with Gilbert. They said it would make an interesting match. Goldberg would kill Gilbert. That would be one good match. At least Goldberg can have one last victory before he goes, but it's funny. Undertaker says, I don't want to be a parody of myself. Goldberg says, my parody is next. Just kidding. But either way, Gilbert and Goldberg took a picture together with Gilbert looking like he was about to get destroyed. But either way, back into this parody. So Magic Mike said some funny stuff. Magic Mike said that Big Bald Corbin looks like a Pitbull parody. That his chest is made of a hot topic. And of course, the fact that every tattoo artist's worst idea was put on Corbin. I thought tattoo artists' worst idea were put on prisoners. Either way, moving forward, I'm just glad nobody tackled. I'm just glad he was in a safe place. Magic Mike was in a safe place because he's babyface now. Even though he's babyface, I'm still going to call him Magic Mike because it's funny. But Magic Mike was in a safe place. Thankfully, nobody ran up and tackled him like they did Dave Chappelle recently. Like that homeless guy with leaves in his hair, as Dave Chappelle said he was. And no, it wasn't Smith. Either way, that was it was a bit funny. What this time Magic Mike was a bit funny, but he shall be known as Big Bald Corbin for the rest of our days. In small talk, we have Drew Gulak getting destroyed by Gunter, who is formerly known as Walter. I don't know why the heck they changed his name. Also, when are we gonna see Walter get some competition on SmackDown? Drew Gulak was destroyed tonight. I don't know why WWE is burying this guy. But either way, this guy had a good match with Daniel Bryan before he was banished by Roman Reigns. And now he's in AEW as Bryan Danielson with this awesome club of himself and Jon Moxley with William Regal and someone else. I forgot what his name was, but I'll learn it later. But either way, Drew Gulak got the crap beat out of him again by Walter. Sami Zayn eavesdropped on Shinsuke Nakamura and consequently had to face him in a match where he would eventually win, but by countout. And the match was okay, but it got ruined when Sami won by countout. And no, Roman is not interested in having you in the bloodline. Forget it, Sami. Speaking of, we got some tag team action tonight. We had a tables match between Ridge with Sheamus versus the New Day. And of course, Shake It Sheamus, as I like to call him now. So, I remember, if you haven't seen it, some of you probably remember this great match that Kofi and Sheamus had, and the amazing ending to that table match where Kofi did the boom drop onto Sheamus through the table. This time he did a body splash that went to Sheamus, sending him through the barricade. Later on, we would see Sheamus and Ridge do 10 beats of the Balor on respective members of the New Day all at the same time. However, we saw Kofi try to do at least 5 beats of the Balor and a coffin drop, a running coffin drop, which kind of looks like what Darby Allin from AEW does. However, we found out where Butch is. Everybody said Butch was missing. We couldn't find him. I thought he was going to come back as Pete Dunne because I liked him better as Pete Dunne, in my personal opinion. Munchkin, dude, I know you probably think that this angle may be a little more interesting to you, and I can respect that. But me, as for myself, I think he was better off as Pete Dunne, the finger snapper. But either way, Pete Dunne as Butch is back and helped the Ridge and Sheamus win the tables match as they slammed Xavier Woods through the table, and Butch continued to attack afterwards and they had to pull him off. I want Pete Dunne back. Also, something real funny happened tonight. Of course, Paul Heyman got interviewed by everybody's crush, Kayla Braxton. And of course, deep down, I think Paul likes Kayla. Who doesn't? But either way, I think Paul likes Kayla. And it's not the other way around. But either way, Paul and Kayla had the interview before Sammy interrupted. And Kayla left Paul alone. It was so funny. Paul was like, "Don't leave me alone with this man." I cracked up. But either way, like I said, after stooging around, Sami Zayn got somewhat of a victory, but I don't know if that's enough to impress the Bloodline. Also, love the stories by Lacey Evans. Glad to see she made an appearance on Friday Night Smackdown. I think we got the women's roster, as far as SmackDown is concerned, could be a little interesting. You got Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair wrestling with her bra, Sasha, Naomi, Natalya, and Shayna Basler. Natalya has been very busy from NXT to back in other traveling places on SmackDown. And speaking of which, earlier this Tuesday, she teamed with Lash Legend. Lash Legend somehow was able to fly from Florida to UK. Y'all some busy people. I'm flying all over the place. And I heard that WWE went on a European tour, which is traditionally something they do almost every year after WrestleMania. And they've been doing this for about almost 2 decades. Thankfully, it wasn't a plane ride from hell. But let's get to the main event of things. Tonight we had the 6-man confrontation between the Bloodline and RK McBro. I acknowledge that Riddle is a little bit funny sometimes. Acknowledged. I acknowledge that I did a review on my favorite matches with Randy Orton, and that's just part 1. I might just do part 2 next year for his birthday because he's had so many amazing matches. Acknowledged. I also acknowledge that it's still Batista week, and if you haven't already, be sure to check out my review on Batista and my favorite matches from the Animal. Acknowledged. But after all the silly acknowledgments, and thankfully Riddle doesn't put his foot in his mouth and whatnot, after all the acknowledgement, the Bloodline comes out. Roman was going to get a mic, but he says, to heck with the mic. I didn't come for the mic. I came for the fight. They get in the ring. They fight. And just like Monday, the Usos get RKO'd by Randy and Riddle, while Drew McIntyre gave Roman Reigns the Claymore. Now, to be honest with you, first of all, before I go any further, let me just say the way this past Monday, when Randy Orton and Riddle RKO'd the Usos at the same time, right behind Roman's back, that was an epic thing of beauty. It was amazing. But to be honest, I don't think there's going to be any stopping the Bloodline. I don't know. I could be wrong, but if RK McBro win the tag team match this Sunday, I know Roman will not be pinned. And if one of the Usos get pinned, Roman's taking off his belt. I'm just playing. Either way, what do you think about tonight's broadcast? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't seen it, be sure to check out earlier this week. I did a review on my favorite top 10 matches from the great one, The Rock. If you haven't seen that, be sure to check it out. And let me just say this about Young Rock. Can anyone tell me? I watched Young Rock a couple of episodes this season so far. Would anyone like to tell me who puts a stove next to a toilet? Could anyone tell me who came up with that sick idea? Can you imagine being Rocky Johnson, God rest his soul, and your wife's mad at you? So when you drop your son off, you see your wife cooking hamburger helper, and then you can't eat it because you're not invited to sit at the table. So you got to go to your hotel room and see a man letting God knows what out of his butt while he's cooking eggs. Ugh, that combination. Ugh. Ugh. If I ever were to see The Rock up close and personal, I would ask, did you really see people with a toilet in front of a stove? Ugh. Yuck. Yuck. I was supposed to eat after this. I have lost my appetite. But that's all the time I got for you guys today. Just wanted to give you some quick laughs and review SmackDown tonight. Let me know what you thought of everything. Be sure to check out some of my top 10 reviews on some of the favorite wrestlers from this week. And I'll see you Sunday, if not Monday morning, for a review of WrestleMania Backlash. See you then.